Imagine opening your refrigerator, pulling out a crisp head of lettuce or a handful of fresh berries, and preparing a healthy meal for your family. Fresh fruits and vegetables are the cornerstones for a nutritional diet. But over the last few weeks, a quiet but significant public health situation has been unfolding in the produce aisles across the United States. Thousands of people in more than 30 states have suddenly fallen ill with severe, prolonged gastrointestinal symptoms, leading to a massive multi-state investigation by federal and state health agencies. If you've seen the headlines about a sudden spike in stomach illnesses or notices at your local restaurant, you might be wondering if your salad drawer is actually safe. Welcome back to Beyond the Label, the podcast where we can dive into the science of food and nutrition so you can make informed choices. I'm your host, and today we're presenting a critical public service announcement. PSA, the Fresh Produce Parasite Outbreak, and what you need to know. Before we dive into the details, I want to emphasize that today's episode is intended to strictly educate and empower you, not to cause panic or fear. Public health situations can sound alarming when summarized in a 10-second news clip, but when we look at the actual science and data, we can protect ourselves without the unnecessary anxiety. Today, we're going to lay out exactly what this outbreak is, break down the science of this organism responsible, explain how food becomes contaminated, and provide you with actionable, evidence-based steps to keep your kitchen safe. No exaggeration, no social media rumors, just the verified facts from the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention and Food and Drug Administration. Let's start with what is currently happening across the country. Public health agencies are actively tracking a sharp rise in cases of an intestinal illness called cyclosporiasis. According to official data from the CDC and state health departments, the number of lab-confirmed cases has climbed significantly since the official start of the monitoring season on May 1st. Thousands of illnesses have been reported across more than 30 states, with states like Michigan, New York, and Ohio reporting some of the highest numbers. The situation has been making national news primarily because of the sheer scale of the geographic spread and the dramatic increase in cases compared to previous years. However, it is vital to note that while more than 100 people have been hospitalized for supportive care, like rehydration, public health officials have confirmed that there have been 0 deaths associated with this outbreak. When a multi-state outbreak like this occurs, the FDA's Coordinated Outbreak Response and Evaluation Network immediately launches what is known as a traceback investigation. As of mid-July, investigators are aggressively analyzing data from patient interviews and supply chains, looking at items like lettuce, salad greens, cilantro, cucumbers, and onions. However, as a matter of verified fact, public health officials have not yet definitively identified or confirmed a single specific food product, brand, or grower as a definitive source of the surge. The investigation is fluid and ongoing, meaning that certain food establishments have protectively paused selling specific items out of caution. We are dealing with an active puzzle that scientists are working daily to solve. To truly understand what we're dealing with, we need to look at the biology of the culprit. Many of us are familiar with those common foodborne threats like E. coli or Salmonella. These are bacteria, single-celled organisms that can multiply rapidly on the surface of food or inside our kitchens if temperatures allow. The cause of this current outbreak is definitely different. The organism is a microscopic parasite, not a bacterium. This distinction matters immensely because parasites behave differently than bacteria. Cyclospora is a parasite that consists of a single cell, but its life cycle is much more complex than a bacterium. When Cyclospora is first exerted in human waste, it is in a form called oocyst, which essentially is a microscopic hardy egg. Crucially, when these oocysts are first passed, they are not immediately infectious to another person. They require days to weeks in the environment under specific temperatures and moisture conditions to undergo a process, and only after that do they become capable of causing infection. Once the contaminated produce is eaten, the parasite settles into the lining of the small intestine. Symptoms do not hit you instantly. There is a biological lag time. It typically takes about 1 week after exposure for symptoms to develop. Their incubation window can range anywhere from 2 days to 2 weeks. The most hallmark symptom of the parasite is watery and sometimes explosively frequent diarrhea. This isn't your typical 24-hour stomach bug. Along with the diarrhea, individuals frequently experience intense stomach cramps, bloating, increased gas, nausea, a persistent low-grade fever, a complete loss of appetite, unintended weight loss, and profound fatigue. One of the most frustrating and deceptive characteristics of the parasite is remitting and relapsing nature. If left untreated, the symptoms may seem to miraculously improve for a few days, giving you false hope that you recovered, only for the severe watery diarrhea and cramping to return with full force. This cycle can repeat itself over and over, causing the illness to drag on for several weeks, or even months, if the body does not receive medical intervention. While anyone can contract cyclosporiasis, certain populations are much higher risk for severe illness, prolonged symptoms, and dangerous complications. These include older adults, young children, pregnant individuals, and anyone with compromised immune system. The primary complication of severe prolonged diarrhea is dehydration, which can quickly become a medical emergency if the body loses fluids and essential electrolytes faster than they can be replaced. If you or a family member develop persistent, watery diarrhea that lasts for more than a few days, accompanied by intense fatigue or cramping, the official guidance from health departments is to contact a healthcare provider. Do not simply try to tug it out at home. It is highly important to understand that routine stool tests ordered for standard food poisoning do not automatically detect cyclospora. Because the parasite is so microscopic and unique, your doctor must specifically request a specialized test, such as an ova and parasite exam or a molecular PCR test to look for cyclospora DNA. When you speak to your doctor, be sure to explicitly mention the ongoing multi-state Cyclospora outbreak and mention any recent consumption of fresh herbs or leafy greens. If the test comes back positive, the good news is that cyclosporiasis is highly treatable. Unlike viral stomach bugs that have just run their course, a cyclospora infection can be effectively eliminated with a specific course of antibiotics provided by a healthcare professional. You should seek emergency medical care immediately if you observe signs of severe dehydration, such as extreme thirst, a dry mouth, little to no urination, dark-colored urine, severe dizziness, or confusion. Now let us tackle one of the most critical aspects of prevention, which is also the source of the biggest myths surrounding the outbreak. Can you simply wash the parasite off your food? The objective, scientific evidence from the CDC and the FDA is clear. Washing fresh produce under running water is highly recommended and reduces your overall risk, but it does not completely eliminate cyclospora. If the produce is heavily contaminated, because the parasite is incredibly sticky and microscopic, they can cling tightly to textured surfaces of leafy greens and berries, resisting rinsing action of water. Furthermore, chemical disinfectants, vinegar rinses, baking soda baths, and commercial produce washes have not been scientifically proven to kill or eliminate cyclospora. So what does kill it? High heat. The FDA states that heating produce to at least 158 degrees Fahrenheit or 70 degrees Celsius effectively inactivates the parasite, rendering it completely harmless. However, because we typically do not want to cook our strawberries, cilantro, or salad greens, we must rely on a combination of smart shopping and rigorous kitchen hygiene to minimize our exposure. While public health agencies work to pinpoint the exact source, you can significantly lower your risk of foodborne illnesses by adopting a few specific evidence-based habits in your kitchen. First, consider adjusting your shopping habits temporarily. During an active cyclospora investigation, public health specialists often recommend purchasing whole heads of lettuce, like romaine or iceberg, rather than pre-cut bagged salad mixes or pre-chopped vegetable kits. Whole produce has less surface area exposed to processing equipment, and you can actively manage the cleaning process yourself. When you prepare whole leafy greens, always completely discard the outer 2 or 3 leaves before anything else. Second, practice meticulous hand hygiene. Wash your hands thoroughly with warm water and soap for at least 20 seconds, both before and after you handle any raw fruits or vegetables. Third, rinse all produce thoroughly under clean, cool, running tap water immediately before eating, cutting, or cooking. Do not submerge or soak your produce in a clogged sink or bowl of standing water, as this can actually spread localized contamination across the entire batch of food. For firm produce like cucumbers or melons, scrub the skin gently with clean produce brush while rinsing it under running water to physically dislodge any clinging organisms. Fourth, rigorously prevent cross-contamination in your kitchen. Use entirely separate cutting boards and utensils for fresh produce and raw meats or seafood. Thoroughly sanitize your cutting boards, knives, and countertops after each use. Finally, manage your storage carefully. Once you cut, peel, or cook any fruits and vegetables, make sure they're placed in the refrigerator within 2 hours. Keeping foods cold prevents any opportunistic bacteria from growing alongside the parasite risks. Just as important as knowing what to do is knowing what not to do. The goal of public health communications is to guide behavior logically, avoiding extreme reactions that often trend on social media. First, do not panic and completely stop eating fruits and vegetables. Fresh produce is the foundational element of a healthy lifestyle, providing vital vitamins, minerals, and fiber that support your immune system. The CDC explicitly emphasizes that the vast majority of produce in the supply chain is perfectly safe, and a varied diet should be maintained. Second, do not wash your fruits and vegetables with dish soap, laundry detergent, or household bleach. Fresh produce is porous. If you wash your lettuce and berries with soap and bleach, the food can absorb these chemicals, leading to severe chemical irritation of your digestive tract, chemical poisoning, and artificial altered flavors. Clean, running tap water is the only substance approved and recommended for rinsing fresh food. Third, do not rely on social media rumors or unverified accounts to determine which foods are safe. If a friend posts that a certain restaurant or grocery store chain is completely toxic based on a rumor, verify that information through official channels. Relying on unauthorized data can lead to unnecessary food waste and undue stress. To wrap everything up, let's take a deep breath and look at the big picture. We are experiencing a notable multi-state outbreak of cyclosporiasis, driven by a microscopic parasite that hitches a ride on whatever fresh produce via contaminated agricultural water. It is an uncomfortable illness that causes prolonged gastrointestinal distress, but it is entirely treatable with specific antibiotics once diagnosed by a medical professional. By adjusting your kitchen habits slightly, choosing a whole produce, discarding outer leaves, rinsing items under running tap water, and avoiding chemical washes, you can actively protect your household while continuing to enjoy the rich nutritional benefits of a diet packed with fruits and vegetables. Stay calm, stay informed through trusted public health sources like the CDC and your state Department of Health, and let science guide your choices. Thank you so much for tuning into this public service announcement on Beyond the Label. Keep asking questions, keep practicing safe food handling, and I'll catch you on our next regular episode.